Hello and welcome back to the 12 Days of Zentangle. My name is Martha and I am so excited to have you join me today, day number 11. I can't believe how far we've come. We have been working on a composition piece every day, adding new and wonderful, exciting tangles. And as you can see, this series of lessons is all on one piece of paper. So if this is the first time you're seeing any of these videos, I do recommend going back to the beginning and watching them from the start. So today we're going to be continuing with our discussions about Zentomology and how tangles fall into different categories. And we've covered quite a few of those tangle categories. We refer to them also as tangle genus. And we've done some drama tangles and grid tangles. We've done blossoming tangles and vining tangles. And today I am going to show you all some texturing tangles, which can be very useful in a big composition like this because it helps balance some of the heavy weight or heavy darkness and drama and color. And it also helps fill in the background of some spaces that have not been paid attention to yet. So we have so many options, as you can imagine, and your options are going to be different than mine at this point. But I think that we are going to be able to figure this out together. So I do have to say, first off, that I really enjoyed day 10, especially because it started this whole process of pulling everything together on my tile here. So I was able to go back and add some extra elements of things that we'd done earlier on in the series. I added some more of the Marisu here, and I added another mycelium down here, which is maybe my new favorite tangle. The more I do it, the more I really enjoy it. I took an element from this big fangle with the moon pie filler, and I actually created some moon pie berries and had those start growing off of my initial vines that we laid down there on day 2 with Molly. Before we begin tangling together, I want to encourage everybody to just take a moment to prepare your tools and prepare your area to work in. Perhaps take a moment to pat yourself on the back for taking this time for yourself in what is undoubtedly a busy time of year for so many of us. And I, for one, am very grateful to be spending this moment with you guys. So as I said earlier, we're going to be adding some texture tangles to this composition. And what I'm going to be looking for on my tile right now is a space that has maybe 2 areas that are rather open. And again, your tile is going to look different than mine. So if you could look at 2 areas, it doesn't matter where it is on your tile. I'm going to be using 2 adjacent areas, and I'm going to be using a tangle called Betweed. And I'm going to demonstrate it once in this area right here because it is quite open, so you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Betweed is an early tangle, way back when in the beginning days of Zentangle. And it is one of my favorites, except I forgot about it, and you kind of get excited about trying new things and you lose sight sometimes of your old favorite. So I was going to bring it back and share it with you guys. It starts off quite simply, and I'm going to use the black 01 pen. It's the finest pen you have in your toolkit here. You're welcome to use brown and any other pens you have that you think would fit on your tile. I'm going to start off by drawing an X through the space. Now, right off the bat, we're going to be using our drawing behind skills because undoubtedly we will have some stuff in the way here. So I've drawn a big X, and then I'm going to cut that X down the middle like that. So it's kind of a a spread out grid of triangle spaces. And now we're also going to use a principle called take off and land. And if you'd like to watch first and then join me, I'm going to first work in this triangle space, starting from the bottom, and I'm going to draw an arc that stops at this line. I'm going to take off here and then arc right there. Now I'm going to do that same motion, but in reverse from the opposite corner. And landing there. And then back and forth I go with similar spacing. I'm drawing from the corner, but at some point, if it feels like it doesn't reach, you can start a little earlier in, a little closer in, excuse me. So we're going to do that. We're going to lay those lines down the same way in each of the triangled spaces. So we'll do it again together. I turn my tile and I'm going to start in this corner, take off and land. Start in this corner, but I have to jump over my moon pie berry stem here. See, that's just a gentle arc when you land on that line. Back and forth. And jumping over any tangles that might be in your way. Now you're going to have to get creative to where you think these lines might live if you can't see where they start from. There, but you'll get the hang of it. Turning the tile as you go. Taking off and landing. Each of these triangular spaces are a little bit different in their shape, so you have to sort of adapt how you respond. But that's what makes this tangle kind of come alive as you go around. And once you get the rhythm, it actually goes nice and smooth. This, I can't see where I'm starting, but I have to imagine it lands about right there. Enjoying the way these lines create a different pattern once they join each other. So that looks so cool, just as is. And you're welcome to go back and perhaps add just a tiny bit of ink where the lines kind of meet each other. Just that suggestion of ink adds enough of a little detail, almost like a shading or a shadow. And I'm only doing the right side here. Those right hand strokes, and it helps give this a little depth. These pens work a little differently on the paper that has been painted, so you don't need a lot of pressure, just that little suggestion of ink. Of course, you could do even more if you wanted. You could do both sides. So much of this project, even though we're working on it together, it's really your project, your art, and the decisions are all from you, and it's going to be this amazing, amazing finished piece. So I'd like to put another one of these right next to it. Your space could be to the right or the left or underneath. The one I'm going to use, I think, is this one. So I'm really just going to do it all again. This one might be a little trickier because I have a lot of stuff in the way, but that's the whole idea about texture. You want these texture tangles almost to fall behind what was there before. So I'm going to start off imagining where this X would be if it was intact, and then down the middle. And I'm choosing to leave the space here where the original string lines were, but if you want to connect those two spaces, by all means, you can do that. And again, I'll demonstrate in this one because it's a whole space, but we're going to start off the same way, taking off and landing. Imagining where that line would be coming from. You can see already why I was wanting to do these adjacent. You can start to see this secondary pattern coming. It's kind of cool. This one a little trickier. But it's amazing. You don't need all the completed lines to see the full pattern. Your eye kind of does it for you. See that, how they come together? That's so cool. Then we get to this last space. There. I'm going to also go back in and add that little bits of ink here. Kind of waiting, but you just touch that little area where the lines meet. Perhaps if you added even more ink, you could classify this tangle as a little drama tangle too. So I think that looks super cool, and you can add some more of that element, but maybe I'll show you a few other textures that you can integrate in different places, and then I would encourage you to assess your tile and see if you need to add some more of the more dominant elements or some other texturing. So while I have the black pen in my hand, I'm going to now focus for my tile. I'm going to work in this bottom arc section here. It's quite full of vining, poke root and poke leaf and some other fun little elements. And I'm going to be doing what's probably the most universally easy background texture tangle to use, and that is Tipple. You can always find room to add some Tipple, which is basically just orbs. So wherever you want to start, and I'm using the black pen, I'm just going to start nestling round orb shapes. And my orbs are so versatile because they can fit into any type of space. And I'm working in a fairly consistent size, but still adding some smaller and some larger as I see fit. to get in and out of these little corners here, I'm working smaller, and they're not quite as big as my poke root. And by having these open sort of bubbles, I'm sort of showcasing the beautiful watercolor that we laid down at the beginning. It's almost giving it a little stage, a little importance, because now nobody can draw over it. And I'm nestling these bubbles all throughout this arced area. And if this area is all full for you, then of course you can add these in another space. I think that for me, Tipple is probably the tangle that gets me into the zone, so to speak, the most, because I'm really just concentrating on creating these orbs. We always use that word as to not dictate a perfect circle, but I mean, honestly, that is what I'm going for here. I'm going for a circle shape. And as simple as that is, each time I draw it, I'm focused, I'm deliberate, and I'm making it important. It's an important part of this whole composition. I'm going to continue on adding these orbs, enjoying the time, allowing yourself to get lost in this repetitive stroke. As we travel around this arc, these spaces that we've already tangled, I love seeing those initial marks that we made and see how they've grown and transformed over the last several days, and how we're bringing all of these tangles kind of together and really showing how they relate to one another. You see these fun little berries that have grown off of the rixty and how they resonate with the tipple. And you'll continue to see all kinds of fun ways these relate to each other. I've so enjoyed seeing just our tangling crew here and how different each of our compositions is. So I can only imagine how amazing it's going to be to see everybody else's work. I suppose one could fill the whole background of their tile with tipple, and that would be incredible. Remembering to relax your hands and lighten up on your grip. It's just a circle. Every time you add a layer or a tangle to your work, it can inspire you to add something you hadn't thought of. I embedded a little heart down here. I thought that was so cute. But you can really add any type of symbol, initial, number. Maybe add it as a hidden message somewhere on this tile. This is one of those kind of magical experiences, because even looking at it now, how could anyone imagine where you could have begun? Where did you begin this tangle journey? I can hardly remember. Enjoying how each one of these orbs just fits into the space that it needs to be, nestling up against brown ink and watercolor pencils. Maybe adding a few down here. So depending on your situation, I'm thinking that I really like the openness of these Tipple, but I think I'm going to add some drama to some of them here. So maybe every other space I may kind of borrow that design we did up there with the Huggins and add just some ink in the centers. I'm kind of leaving that little highlight in the middle. Maybe just on the larger orbs. Again, this is totally optional. And you can create movement by where you put these inked spaces. So I'll skip a little bit and maybe add some over here. You don't have to fill in each one in order to have that effect. You can sort of hold it away from your face and stand back and just see how a little bit of ink can really change how it comes across. And skip a little space and do some over here. Perhaps it's just in the shadow of the bunzo that these little dark areas appear. Remember that we haven't even started to add graphite and shading, so there are so many opportunities still awaiting us there. So just adding some here and there, not throughout the whole thing. And in the way that it reacts to the different colors in the background. On your tile, it's different than my tile. So this is something that you can add in more places, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to add a few different types of textures, and then maybe we can go back and repeat them in some areas that are left open. The next texture tangle that I'm going to do with you is Indirella, which is a wonderful tangle with only one stroke. It's just a curved line. But what's interesting about Indirella is that none of the lines ever touch, which is really cool. So it's all about that aura spacing and special placement. And it's wonderful how it comes together. So on my tile, and I think on your tile, you have several round shapes that are probably hanging out. Could be a poke root berry, or like I have these moon pie berries. And I'm going to play off of that a little bit and follow that arced shape that's already laid there for me. So you can pick any space you want to work in. I'm going to just start right here. And with the same black pen, I am going to aura the shape around this little berry. And with Indirella, it's just a series of arced lines that get smaller and smaller and actually can shift all around if you want them to. That's basic Indirella. And now turning your tile And starting again, you can start in the opposite way with a small dot and then aura'd lines. I'm going to keep my aura'd lines as similar in spacing to the ones that were already there. We start small, we get bigger, and then we go smaller again. And these Indirella can grow in any direction. They can change direction. And fit into spaces. Noticing how none of my lines are touching. This one is falling behind here. Taking care that the ones that line up next to each other also don't touch, but you can start to see that pattern left behind just from the tension of them not touching. Again, I have this curved line right here just waiting for me. So that's very simple lines in a space, but to further accentuate them, if you will, you can also add a little ink to the curve, just where that curve is. And we'll also have fun with this when we start shading. Just that little bit of ink where the curve is helps define these lines, kind of gives them a little purpose. Sculpting and making them exactly the way you want them. Enjoying the openness that it offers. Contrast to the heavy weighted drama of some of the other tangles on your tile. So you can add some Indirella anywhere on your tile. I'm going to add some more somewhere else here. Let's see. I like how they kind of play with the roundness of the berries that are there. Maybe up here. I think I'll play with that sort of one on the end of each of these. It's sort of like an echo of the berry. Again, you can kind of angle these to take any type of direction. Just little bits of ink added here and there. Maybe this one here. Maybe we can have one sneak in over here. Okay, I am going to put down my black pen for a while. I'm sure I'll pick it up again later. And I'm going to add a texture that's a little bit different. And believe it or not, I'm going to go back and pick up one of my watercolor pencils. I'm going to grab this beautiful teal color, but you're welcome to grab either one of the other ones that we had. And I'm actually going to make sure I have a good tip on it. So I'm going to give it a little sharpen here. And I'm going to be adding some background texture with this pencil. And what I'd like to do is to sort of go back and borrow those weighted printemps of this spiraling vertigo and use that stroke for a texture in the background. So if you have any larger spaces left, or actually it doesn't even really matter, I'm going to work over here, and I'm going to work with pressure and kind of demonstrate that you have all types of different opportunities with the same tool. And although we're going to be just drawing simple spirals, we're going to be focusing on how much weight we put on the pencil as we push down on the paper. If you want to watch me for a moment. So starting with our basic spiraling shape, I'm going to start off with a heavy stroke. So I'm pushing hard on the paper, but I'm immediately going to lighten up to get a thinner line. And what that's going to do is every time I go around the spiral in about the same spot, I will add that pressure and then release. So I'll start with a heavy stroke, lighten up, start again, lighten up, and start again. Can you see that? So it comes out looking like a weighted printemps, all with just one stroke of the pencil. So we're going to use that same idea and really kind of exaggerate the light and the heaviness of your stroke. If you want to practice on another paper, this is actually just wonderful paper to do it on because it has that nice cushy feel when you push down and then lighten up. Push down and lighten up. And if you need to sharpen your pencil again so that you can achieve that lighter stroke as well. And I'm nestling these spirals under one another. It's really kind of fun once you get the hang of it. And with certain pens, you can actually play with this same theory. Oh, well, that happens. Pushed a little too hard, I guess. Not a problem. Light and pressure. I love bringing this color back into the whole composition a little deeper and darker than what's been watered down, as beautiful as that is. So you can actually, with a tortillon, really encourage this watercolor spiral to fade into the watercolor that's already there. And it's just a luscious, luscious texture, because the fine lines become finer, which make the weighted lines stand out even more. I actually love it. So I think I'm going to add some of that into some other areas on my tile. Perhaps a couple more. And I welcome you to do the same. So I may pick up this ochre pencil and do the same thing over on this corner and see how that looks on some of the different backgrounds that I have going on over here. And plus, I think it will be fun to see how it resonates with this spiraling vertigo. So again, starting off with that heavy line and then a faded line. Seeing how it looks on the blue. And then how it looks on the yellow. Remembering to lighten up on that stroke on the other side. And then grabbing a tortillon and just inviting it into that paper. Again, it lightens the light strokes and makes the darker strokes come to the surface. Just a beautiful, unexpected background. So I'm going to demonstrate one more texture tangle, and then I'm going to kind of let you guys figure out what comes next and where you might want to add these elements to your tile. I'm going to go back to the black 01 pen, but again, this can be really done with any of the pens. And I'm going to add some Diva dance as a texture, just classic Diva dance. And I love using this as a texture because the initial stroke, the initial line of Diva can be very just reactive to what is there. So we've got so much going on. I think I'm going to look in this space right here and work in it as this, in this triangle area. And I'm going to start with just by auraing this lovely spiraling vertigo as my initial line for the Diva. Working with what's already there on my tile. And then adding some ink in some of these little curves and edges. Just a little ink. Something new to respond to, as Diva's all about aura. So we'll start again auraing the line that's here. So we're just going to be creating a background pattern throughout this triangle shape. Each line adding a bit of ink, just enough to make the line a little different than the last time you aura it. Working to keep my aura spacing consistent. Adding some ink. It doesn't have to be much. Working our way down this triangled space, we're going to have to go behind the Marisu, of course. This tangle is wonderful in the background because it gives a wonderful opportunity for shading also. So we have to be patient for all these fun new things that are ahead of us. Oftentimes, texturing tangles can take the longest because they are just simple lines, often close together. They seem so simple, but they are so important to the overall composition of what you have going on. As we get to the end, perhaps we don't need so much ink. So this type of principle can be added on anywhere where you echo or aura a line that's there and then fill in the space in the background. I may add a few more betweeds to my tile, perhaps some more tipple here and there. Yes, I feel like I could add some more tipple on this end here. Gotten a little carried away here with my tipple, but I think it just really complements the mycelium. It's giving it just a very underwater quality that I am enjoying immensely. You can see that it's almost hard to stop. So let's see. Perhaps I'll use these spaces here to add some more betweed. Starting with my crisscross. And once down the middle. So I'm just adding a few more of these versatile tipple up here with my original mycelium and all of the fun things that are growing out of it. And I've had fun adding a few elements here and there. I did the teal watercolor pencil printemps in the background here. And then I added it in yellow down here, that ochre color. It blends in so sweetly with the different shades of color in the background. And you can see I've added a few more of the betweed in here. And again up here, I kind of transition that teal into the ochre and into the background here, and just really appreciating how it plays with the different color that was there. And all of my tipple here on this end, lots going on here. So I've really enjoyed sharing this time with you guys, and I've enjoyed revisiting some of the different tangles that we've used and bringing those elements into the textures and playing around with how the similarities and strokes can complement one another. So thank you so much for joining me on day 11. And I look forward to seeing what everybody does tomorrow on day 12, our wonderful wrap up. So many fun things to add to this amazing project. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see what everybody does with their beautiful, beautiful Tangle family tree. Have a great day.
So Rick and Maria here, taking a look at some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I,
This is Rick's.
I added some, took inspiration and added some colored pencil tangles on the outside, and then some texture on the inside, and some sort of diva dance in the center bottom there.
Mm-hmm.
Here's Maria's.
I added a lot of tipple because Martha was showing us how it can put a nice texture in the background, and I just went with it. I put it everywhere.
With little dots on it. I like that.
Yeah.
Looks
It
really
was
nice.
fun. It was very fun.
And here's Molly. Hers is really filling up. Look how she added that, the printemps in the fangle there.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It just shines right there.
And all over.
Yeah.
And I'm sure yours is shining in wonderful ways and different ways. And thank you for spending time with us. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Okay. See you later.
Bye now.
Bye.